Calgary. Now, get out of my way. Stand there, because I'm not in a good mood. Hang on to that. William, I don't know what happened tonight, other than you screwed up again and again and again. No, it is your fault. Shut your mouth. It is your fault. You heard me.
It's not my fault, Principal.
You hit me in the head with a cane. It's your fault.
It's not my fault. I didn't lose the match. You were the one who was pinned. 1, 2, 3, Principal. I got lots of fans here tonight, and I put on one hell of a show. Win or lose, I'm still taking a pretty girl out tonight, whether you like it or not, Principal. That's not my fault this time.
Just a minute, William, back up. Back up here. What's this talk here? Come here. Come here. Come here. Stay away. First off, you and I have came all the way from Ontario. We've been through hell and back, and the Hard Mafia is trying to break us up. Now, William, admit that you screwed up, and I'll take it easy on you, and I'll let you come for dessert tonight. Only if you admit that you screwed up.
Principal Pound, why don't you just admit that you screwed up, punk? What are you doing? 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 No, I didn't screw up.
The flight of the night. You know, Bad News, far be it from me to try to make sense of what is transpiring in the tag team factions here in WOW. It was clear to everyone with even remote eyesight in that ring that that was tails. That should have been Greg Pistol Pollock's shot at the British Commonwealth title. Instead, Hotshot Johnny Devine gets it. I'm happy with that. He deserves it, but what's going on?
Well, let me tell you something. That's why you had to take off your glasses, because you can't even see what I'm on. I saw it was heads. Mrs. B saw it was heads. The referee saw it was heads. You just wanted Stu Hart's grandkid to get in there and get a shot at that title. That's what it comes down to.
In any event, Pollock and Devine successfully defend their international tag team titles. And coming up next week for the British Commonwealth Mid-Heavyweight Championship, the Principal Richard Pound will take on Hotshot Johnny Devine. For Bad News Allen and Bambi, this is Mauro Ranallo saying, see ya!
Super Channel and Movie Max. You want to see great movies, and you want to see them when you want to see them, and you want to see them the way you want to see them. Always unedited and uninterrupted. And that's always Super Channel and Movie Max. You won't believe the convenience, value, and variety. Unforgettable films and Hollywood hits. 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Super Channel and Movie Max. Seeing is believing.
This won't change your world, but it could change your life for the better. As part of a healthy diet, we should eat between 5 and 10 servings of vegetables and fruit a day. This could reduce your risk of cancer, heart disease, and stroke. Remember, one serving isn't that big. An apple or a single carrot. We all lead busy lives. A few simple choices can make a big difference. Vegetables and fruits. Are you getting enough?
The Government of Canada reminds seniors that it's now easier to renew your Guaranteed Income Supplement or Spouse's Allowance. Most pensioners will have their benefit renewed automatically by filing an income tax return. However, if you receive a renewal form, complete it and return it as soon as possible. If you have any questions regarding this subject, please call free of charge 1-800-277-9914. Human Resources Development Canada, serving seniors.
Hi, I'm Garth Stone.
And I'm Barry Davies. Join us for In Gear, the show that puts you in the driver's seat.
Each week we'll take a look at different aspects of the automotive industry, like test driving new cars.
And we'll talk to our expert mechanic on autofocus.
Paul Leitner continues building a cast car sportsman racer along with other racing news on the Racer's Edge.
And don't forget, I'll take you on a weekly automotive adventure.
And very special weekly guests.
If you love cars, you're going to love In Gear.
Thursday nights at 9 here on Channel 7.
In Gear is brought to you in part by Boston Pizza, come and get it all, the Regina Automobile Dealers Association, and Kings Park Speedway, we're kicking asphalt.
And good evening and welcome once again to the show that puts you, the Saskatchewan driver, in the driver's seat. It's In Gear here on Channel 7. Hi, I'm Garth Stone, and you know it, once again, another wonderful show is on tap for us tonight. We're going to hook up with Paul Leitner again on the Racer's Edge and see just exactly where we are in terms of constructing that cast car sportsman race car. As you may recall, Paul had to change from one shop to another. The shop that he had, well, it got leased out. So now he's in a new shop. He's set up and getting ready to go again. We're going to check in with him tonight on the Racer's Edge. Also, test drive. Well, we're continuing taking our look at minivans. A lot of people are getting ready for Little League and the soccer season. You might have to be moving a lot of people around over the next few months. You might be considering a minivan in the very near future. Well, tell you what, tonight we're going to be taking a ride in a Ford Windstar. I think you're going to like it. And also Barry's Automotive Adventures. You may recall last week it was part one of a segment seeing a couple of vehicles that are being built right here in the area. Well, we're going to follow up and see where they're going to go next in terms of the construction of those cars. That's Barry's Automotive Adventures. But right now, why don't we introduce our very special guests that are joining us, and one person I might add who is going to be joining us on a regular basis and becoming part of the team. Right now, let's introduce Bruce Axelson from Capital Pontiac Buick Cadillac GMC. And Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Garth. My pleasure. It's great to be here.
Glad that you're with us. And also Joe Hattisbeck. Joe, how you doing?
I'm good, Garth. Thanks for having me back.
Well, you know, we should point out to everybody that Joe's not just going to be back tonight, but Joe is actually going to be joining part of the team for In Gear, and he's going to be putting together some segments and hosting the show from time to time. We're looking forward to having you as a regular part of the show, and we know you're looking forward to it as well.
I am, very much so.
Bruce, tonight we are going to be following up with our continuing segment talking with new vehicle dealers like yourself, and we're going to be discussing aspects of purchasing a vehicle and how people can make a nice smooth transition to that perfect vehicle for themselves. I know from your aspect, you've been in the business for a long time. I'm not trying to date you here.
Careful here.
But I'm sure an awful lot has changed in the automotive industry in the period that you've been a part of it.
Oh, goodness, it really has. Now, that's partly because of my age and partly because of the change, but certainly it's a whole new industry. It's a different industry than it was even 5 years ago. It's exciting, but it's really a moving target right now.
Has there been any decade where you've seen considerably more change? Is the change coming more rapid as time goes on?
Honestly, I believe the last 5 years has been as significant in my automotive career as any other time that I've been in the automobile business, and it's all I've ever been in is the car business. But certainly the last 5 years with the internet and leasing and all of those things, it's really impacted the way we own and operate automobiles.
I know that one of the things that we're going to want to speak about tonight is how the internet may have affected the new car industry, whether it's dealerships putting up their own websites or some of the sites where you can go out and purchase a vehicle. We'll talk about that and touch on that just a little bit. Joe, I'm sure there's a lot of questions that you've got for Bruce as well in terms of purchasing a new vehicle and what people can do to get themselves into that right vehicle.
Well, I think, Bruce, what you just mentioned is leasing. I think that's really changed your industry, or it sure has seemed to. It's an affordable way for a lot of people to get into a vehicle that maybe they couldn't have got into before. They couldn't outright buy it, maybe they didn't have the down payment, or the payments were a little too much for them, but it's a nice, easier way for them to get into, not just for the business people of the world, but also for the regular car buyer.
Oh, for everyone, really. It's I think leasing gives you financial flexibility. You know, we have this thing about ownership, and with a lease you can buy the car anytime in the lease period or at the end of the lease or whatever. It gives people more car in their driveway for less money. It really does. Less of your disposable income will give you a little bit more car.
Has it helped the dealership as well? When the leases come back, you've got a nice, good base of used vehicles to sell. They've been well maintained, and I have to imagine that they're just a little easier to sell.
For sure, it really does. And if we do our job right and we maintain the relationship with you for the time in the lease, you're going to bring the car back to us to drop it off, and hopefully we'll encourage you to buy or lease another vehicle from us. So it does generate the used car, plus it helps maintain our relationship with you, the lessee, from start to finish.
And it keeps a customer around for forever almost, because they're happy with one, they come back, maybe they get a completely different model or the newest model of the car that they have out. I would imagine that happens quite a bit.
Oh, it really does. Some people are leasing the car again at the end of the lease, and we're doing more and more used car leasing. It hasn't caught on the way new cars have, but it's certainly going to grow as cars get more expensive.
In terms of leasing, one of the things a lot of people hear about, whether it be in the ads or when you're in the dealership, is the guaranteed future value, that residual. How you maintain your vehicle during the period of the lease, does that affect that guaranteed future value?
Only the mileage.
Only the mileage?
Yes. With us and the leases we do, and I can only speak to General Motors, but I would really guess that all manufacturers are the same. When you sit with us and discuss the lease, there are 4 things that determine the value of a lease payment. The value of the automobile, the interest rate of the day, the length of the lease, be it 2-3 years, and of course the lease end value or the residual value. The residual value is determined based on the type of automobile it is and the driving you do. Mm-hmm. So the only way that would ever change is if in fact you drive more miles than you plan to. But most of us know how many miles we're going to drive it when the lease starts.
I know there's such a thing as a low mileage lease that maybe a lot of people aren't aware about.
For sure, there really is. A 20,000 kilometer lease is a low mileage lease, and you pay less monies. You know, in other words, the reason you pay less monies is the residual value is higher because it's going to come back with less kilometers on.
So it's easier for you to market yourself.
Absolutely, and it's easier to lease going through the lease because the payments are substantively less.
You know, one thing I've always been curious about, years and years ago, personal leases, they almost didn't exist. There was corporate leases, business leases, and in that case there was vehicles getting a ton of mileage on them. For somebody who is a traveling salesman out on the road a lot, is a personal lease a viable option, or can you still get a business lease?
Well, you can, no, I don't think they distinguish between a personal and a business. It all works, I think, the same way, Garth. If you're a high mileage user, your lease payment will certainly be more than a low kilometer user. But I think that you're probably being remunerated for that in your job function. So
getting paid your kilometer charge.
Correct. So it normally works out the same way. It really does. And if you know that going in, the lease can be determined. There's no penalties at the end. We lease vehicles, some of them 40, 50, 60,000 kilometers a year. But people know that going into the lease, and their payments are affected at the start of the lease, not at the end.
Oh, so they can prepare for it right up front.
Absolutely.
What's nice, I think, is, again, the maintenance of the vehicle throughout the lease. They bring it back to you, you take care of it, and it gives the person a peace of mind throughout that entire lease, I would imagine.
I think what people can do, Joe, they can do some accurate budgeting. You know, the payment is identified, you've got your maintenance costs, most other things are covered by a warranty, and you can extend the warranty if you drive past the regular 2,000 kilometers a month. So there's just your license and insurance and maintenance. Everything else you've got figured out.
And it's really nice for people to have a new car every couple of years as well.
Oh, for sure, it really is. Yeah, it's trouble-free.
Well, you mentioned the warranty. There's certainly a comfort feeling knowing that a major repair is covered under warranty during the period of that lease, as opposed to 5 or 6 years down the road when those major repairs do start to come up, and they almost always start to creep up on you. But you no longer have that warranty coverage, so you end up putting out the money anyway.
Correct, yes. It just helps you do very accurate budgeting.
Which is certainly an advantage, I would think, for everybody. Money is getting tight. With gas prices the way they are we seeing a change in terms of what people are leasing? Are the trucks slowing down and the Cavalier or the Sunfire's coming up, or what are we seeing right now?
Well, you're talking about the 73 cents a liter. I think that's happened so instantly that I don't think it's impacted anything we do right now. To be quite frank, I believe that all of the cars that are manufactured nowadays, whether it's the type we sell, General Motors, or other brands or imports, the fuel economy is great on all cars nowadays. And I think the people that will be impacted the most are the high mileage users. If you drive 20,000 kilometers a year and the gas price goes from 65 cents a liter to 73, and I don't want to be flippant about it and make it sound like it's not a whole bunch of money, but if you figure that out over the course of 20,000 kilometers, we did a calculation, I think it's about $300 a year. So that's not enough reason to trade automobiles.
It's not a major amount of money.
No, because the tax to trade a car represents a lot more than that. So, you know, you have to be a little careful that you justify and really prove that you should trade a car for that reason.
So for anybody who might be thinking that now is the time to do it before the gas prices hit $1 a liter or whatever they may end up at, sit down and actually do the budgeting, figure it out, do the math, and come in and talk with Bruce or one of your salespeople.
For sure.
Barry's Automotive Adventures. As we know, as I mentioned, Barry is continuing his saga on building some race cars. Well, now hang on, check that. Building some rods, some street rods. As a matter of fact, let's go check it out and see where he is right now. It's part 2 of what he began last week. We're talking about Barry's Automotive Adventures. Here's Barry on In Gear.
Hi, this is Barry Davies. There's Ernie, and this is Chad. Ernie and Chad Welta, the Welta family that we started visiting with last week on Barry's Automotive Adventures. There's one of the works in progress, and we'll talk a little bit more about what they're working on and what they're doing on Barry's Automotive Adventure. Ernie, you were saying that when you bought your home about 20 years ago, you were marveling at the size of the garage. Tell me about that experience.
Well, when I took a look at the house, in the garage, I walked into the garage and it was a double-car garage. There was nothing in here but one small car, no workbench, nothing on the walls. I thought this garage was just huge, but over the past 20-some years, we've managed to fill it up.
You've got a lot of memorabilia here. Let's talk a little bit about some of what you've got and where you found it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff we've just picked up over the years, you know, at swap meets and that. It just appealed to me. I sort of collect service station memorabilia, so that's part of it. The other items I've got over the years from friends and people I've met in the hot rodding game throughout Canada and the U.S.
My, and old signs and thermometers and pictures and an old actor.
Yeah, that is a fellow from Southern California by the name of Norm Grabowski. Grew up in Southern California and acted in several sort of what they call B movies, and went on to claim to fame was he built the first what they call a Bucket T hot rod, and was put on the cover of Life magazine in about 1957.
Do you still correspond?
I do, yes. We talk at Christmas, and we also consider Norm one of the our U.S. members in the North Side.
And the president of the Northside Street Rodders back here, great picture.
Oh yeah, well we do have Henry Ford back there. We thought he'd make a good president. Right now he doesn't say too much, so that's the best kind of president to have.
You have to like walking in here. This has got to feel just like real home.
Well, we do have a lot of fun out here, and we do spend probably too much time out here, but so we've decorated it up over the years.
It looks great, it really does, and like I said, old pictures, new pictures, even down the road in Swift Current you brought some pictures home.
Yes, yeah, we did. We're good friends with the club, the Eliminators Car Club down in Swift Current, and I was down there a few weeks ago, took a bunch of pictures of their projects, and that is what we've got hanging on the wall there.
And a ton of other stuff that's hanging everywhere right now.
Way too much stuff.
I'm going to wonder here, if you ever move, you're really in trouble.
Yeah, I think I'll just pick up the garage and take it. That's the easy part.
We move about 6 feet, open the suicide doors, and jump in. And Ernie, this is?
1932 Ford three-window coupe, the same coupe that the Beach Boys sang about in Little Deuce Coupe.
Okay, I mentioned suicide doors, but they weren't around then. Let's talk about what Ford had in mind when he built this.
Well, this was right at the height of the Depression, and this was actually one of the more expensive body styles because it was actually not built in the Ford factory. It was built on the framework of the body was wood, and so it cost a lot more to put out. And over the years, when I got this body a number of years ago, it had the wood had deteriorated, so we replaced all the structure with steel and made it quite a bit more solid and a lot more safer too.
Did you find any wood in this at all when you got it?
There was just one door pillar was good, and that's what we were able to make the patterns out of steel.
Okay, now let's talk about the entire vehicle. It is all Ford?
This is all Ford. It is a Ford powertrain, 95 Mustang, fuel-injected 5-liter Mustang. It has a Ford automatic overdrive transmission and a Ford rear end in it. And it has disc brakes on the front and the standard brakes on the back on the rear end.
Your son is grinning over there because he knows darn well that it's a Buick steering wheel.
Yes, that's true. That is the one thing that isn't Ford about the car, I must admit. It just happens that this particular steering column works quite a bit better.
Okay, let's talk about the suicide doors. How come?
Okay, actually, Barry, these doors were originally suicide doors. This was the only body style that Ford had in 1932 with the suicide doors. They did follow through for 33 and 34 later on, and then discontinued that style.
After that. Okay, and the hood?
The hood is actually a reproduction of a 1932 Ford. It is steel. The only real difference is it has what they call the hot rod louvers on the side instead of the straight louvers that Ford came out with.
Now, did you do the louvers yourself?
We do the louvers right here, yeah.
My goodness, that's a little bit of work.
It takes a little practice, but we can get it done. One of these days we'll show you how it's done.
Okay, let's talk about the interior. We mentioned the steering wheel from a Buick. A bunch of holes in the front here. What's going to be in the dash?
Okay, we're going to have the 4 standard gauges, water temperature, oil pressure, voltmeter, and fuel gauge, and then of course a speedometer, and it's also going to have a tachometer.
All right, and color scheme?
Color scheme outside is going to be purple, which you can see on the outside now, which is a base coat, and interior probably in a gray tweedy material. We're not quite sure yet.
Okay, I'm guessing that Darlene, your lovely wife, is going to have a big say in this?
Yeah, she's going to, at least I hope she'll do the work on this one. She's done it on all her other cars, but we haven't really discussed it. I'm just assuming she will.
Let's not ignore your other son, Brent, and we've already talked about his vehicle right now. Anything that he's working on or wanting to work on?
He does have another plan for a car in the wings, 28 Ford sedan, which he just recently picked up.
I thought I heard somebody say no new vehicles a while back to work on.
That was mentioned, but somehow this one slipped in.
All right. I have to ask this because I know how much fun you're having with the vehicles. You've got the entire family involved. You've had tremendous success with the Majestics and now the Northside Street Rodders. You pulled a final run a couple of years ago as anybody said, Ernie, one more time, just for the millennium. Could you do one more?
Well, we have been asked, Barry, and we've given it some thought, but that we're leaving it up in the air right now.
Okay. If you do, we'd like to come along.
You definitely have an invitation.
Thank you very kindly. And we look forward to seeing your vehicles at the Majestics Car Show, Dragons, and at SIR. Is there a bit of a grudge match here between the Chevy and the Ford?
Well, Chad has mentioned that that Chevy can beat this Ford, but we're going to see what happens.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm sitting beside you. My money's on the Ford because I'm Ford all the way.
Wonderful.
And that's another edition of Barry's Automotive Adventures. I'd like to thank the Ernie Welter family with Chad and Darlene, and we talked about Brent too. Ernie, thank you again.
Thanks for coming out. We really appreciate it and had a real good time with this.
All right, next week, a big surprise on Barry's Automotive Adventures.
Did you know shuttle astronauts experience somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 Gs on liftoff? Now check this out. You or I may experience 100 Gs for up to 1/10 of a second during a head-on collision. What does that mean? Wear your seatbelt. Don't forget it. Very important. This week on Auto World News, well, have you seen enough gas price increases at the pump? From what the analysts are saying, we can expect to see more. The price of crude is nearing the $34 mark. Check that. It was nearing the $34 mark when I wrote this last night. It has dropped $3. Cross your fingers. Let's see if that can continue to go down. That could mean, though, even at $31, still another price increase at the pump sometime soon. Some are even predicting pump prices hitting about $1 a liter before the year is out. All eyes will be on OPEC when it meets March 27th to discuss upping production quotas. On the topic of fuel efficiency, last Thursday evening, GM recalled about 2/3 of its EV1 electric cars and Chevrolet S10 electric pickups. The 1997 and 98 electric vehicles were recalled due to a potential overheating problem in the charging port while charging. GM is talking with the vehicle owners about replacing those vehicles, but only about 150 of the 500 units currently in production are still available. Despite the setback, GM remains committed to the EV program. In other news, Daimler Chrysler has announced they will stop using the popular Cummins engines in the Dodge Ram diesel pickups. In an effort to cut costs, the company will switch to Mercedes-built diesels for the 2003 model Ram. That'll be out on the streets in early 2002. Cummins has been supplying their engines to Dodge since 1998. Currently, Daimler Chrysler, the parent company of Dodge, is Cummins' biggest customer, so potentially big changes at Cummins. Still talking Dodge, the company has announced their racing lineup for next year's entry into the NASCAR Winston Cup circuit. Bill Davis Racing, along with Petty Enterprises, will team up with Evernham Motorsports to put no fewer than 7 Dodge Intrepid RTs on the Daytona 500 starting line next year. Drivers already confirmed include Ward Burton, Dave Blaney, Kyle Petty, John Andretti, and Adam Petty. Speculation still continues. Bill Elliott may be the lead driver for Evernham Motorsports, but that announcement will be made later, and that's Auto World News. Joe, I know that you've also heard somebody else may potentially be in the Dodge lineup next year.
Well, I've been trying to watch a couple of the different internet sites out there, all the rumor sites, and on the one, jskis.com, I saw they were talking about Joe Gibbs Racing going to the Intrepid next year. So I think that could be fairly interesting. Bobby Labonte and Tony Stewart having a great year in their Pontiacs, I might mention.
What guys?
And but we'll see next year. It's going to be very interesting. I'm looking so forward to it. Actually got a chance to see an Intrepid with the full paint on it as well. The Toronto Car Show. One of the CASCAR drivers has got his car ready, and you can go to cascar.ca and see that one if you like as well. It's nice.
Speaking of car shows, Bruce, you were just mentioning that you were out at the Detroit International Auto Show this year. There must have been some spectacular vehicles that really piqued your interest there.
Oh, yeah, I was there. It was about 3 weeks ago, and it's just an incredibly huge display of automobiles, all brands, lots of concept cars, lots of new automobiles, and lots of cars, of course, that we're pretty familiar with. General Motors had a really large display. They had a little sport utility that's a Pontiac model that we'll be selling at our dealership, hopefully. Mm-hmm. It's called the Aztec, and it's a very unique automobile, really unique. I'm not sure it'll appeal to everyone because it is that radical, but it comes with 1 trillion different features and cup holders and all of the things that people want. And it's coming out, I think, in a 2-wheel drive to start with and an all-wheel drive later in the year.
I think a lot of people will be watching for that.
Well, I was out surfing the web a little bit today. As I mentioned, another website, Pontiac.com. I went there today, and the Aztec is on there, and there's a little 3D model of it on there and some specifications, and just going through it a little bit. 3.4-liter V6s, 4-speed, full for life transmission fluid, so some innovation, and it's a very interesting looking little vehicle. You can, on the website, you can get a 360 look at it, and it's very nice. People can go and take a look at what's going to be coming up soon.
It'll be something very novel for us and very novel in the marketplace, without a doubt.
Yeah.
For yourself, somebody who's so involved in the automotive industry, going to a car show like that must just really excite you.
It really does. It's you know, the consumer, and of course I'm a consumer, we're all looking for something unique. I think it's a statistic that after I buy a new car, I'm in the marketplace again or thinking about it after 27 months. So it's fun to see these things unfold. They have a couple of trucks that were really unique. One's called an Avalanche, and the other one I think was called a Dynamax. You'd just about expect RoboCop to step out of this thing. It was really a unique automobile. It was big and brawny, and it was just quite a truck.
You know, I try and watch as much from the auto show as I can, and it just seems so amazing to go down there that first week with all the new concept vehicles coming out and all the big displays, and then just to go and just to wander around. It looks like it'd probably take you 2 or 3 days worth of visits to see it all, I would imagine.
Oh, for sure. I think that General Motors, I don't know how many millions of dollars they spent on their display, and I think it covered something like 120,000 square feet, just their display. And there was lots of them. All the manufacturers were well represented.
I read a lot of the specs in terms of getting that show up and ready to go, and they actually take over, I believe it's called Cobo Center, for 3 months to get that car show ready to go. Just incredible.
Oh, it's unique, and there's just thousands of people.
Any other specialty or concept vehicles that piqued your interest?
Well, there's a new Buick coming. Of course, I have quite a fascination for the General Motors products I sell, and there's a Buick. It's a four-door sedan, and I know it's hard to imagine that that's novel, but goodness, the back roof slid up like a station wagon, and the doors opened in a different way, and the dash was different. There's the night vision type of displays on the car. It's amazing to think that a four-door type car could look that radical and that high tech, but they're just amazing.
Speaking of the night vision, Cadillac, of course, that's one of the lines that you carry. Certain models of the Cadillac have that very special night vision. Is that something that people are starting to come in specifically looking for?
They are. It's available to us, I believe, and I could be corrected. I think we only sell it on the Cadillac. I think it's available there. We've had a couple in. I've driven it. It's a very novel. It's a heat-sensitive thing.
Right.
And when you're driving down the road behind a car, you can see where their exhaust is. You can see a person walking on the road, but you can't see a fire hydrant. It's a real novel thing. I had a tough time, the little bit of driving I did, keeping my eyes on the road as opposed to on the screen. But they're really something.
I've seen a few of the newer Cadillacs, and you know, a lot of people maybe think they're for the older person. And maybe, I hope that's not stereotypical, but there are some great looking new Cadillacs out there, and very sporty and nice and quick, and really, really coming around a little bit. I think with some of the models, I think there's still the classic Cadillacs out there as well.
Oh, you're right, Joe. I know you're a race car guy. You should come down and we'll put your bum in a Seville STS. They have a lot of jam. I think they have a 300 horsepower. A V8 engine. There's not many cars now that have a V8 engine anymore. There's lots of high output V6s, as you know. But that's it's called the North Star. It's got lots of accreditation. They say you can drive it without oil for a certain length of time. And there's some sort of detuned type of North Star engines too in some other cars, but they really are quick, and they've got great suspension.
And a lot of safety features in those as well. You mentioned suspension. I believe it's and I'm not positive of the model. When you hit a certain speed, the car actually lowers to the ground a little bit just to make sure that your handling is that much better.
Yeah, I think that's that new model of DeVille. There's a model that addresses the sport suspension. I can't explain it, but I know it's there.
That's okay, as long as it works. Yeah. That's what's important.
And you invited Joe to put his butt in one of the caddies. Could he take it out on the track?
No, I didn't say that. But he can put his butt in it.
I wonder if Sharky's watching, looking for a new Cadillac,
for the Enduro. That's right.
Exactly.
By the way, if you have any calls, why don't we get them? If you have any questions that you want to ask about Joe, myself, or our very special guest tonight, Bruce Axelson, give us a call at 565-5376. And yes, as always, we are going to be making our way up to Boston Pizza tonight. We're going to the North Store. You want to talk cars? We would love to have you up there, and I know Boston Pizza would love your business. Come on up, chat cars with us. The address, once again, for tonight is 545 Albert Street North. That's Boston Pizza, 545 Albert Street North, and we're going to be up there having some pizza. I'm getting a little on the growly side myself, not that I really need it, but certainly hope Joe's going to be able to make it. I know you have a bit of a commitment tonight, so you're not going to be able to join us. But if you do have any questions for Bruce Axelson, why don't you give us a shout right now? Once again, that number, 565-5376, 565-5376. How has the buyer changed We've all seen dealerships change. We've all seen all the construction, and there's been a lot of construction amongst dealerships in the Regina area anyway in the last few years. But how has the buyer changed?
The buyer is a very informed person nowadays, which is, it's nice. When people come in, they've done lots of research. They've spoken to lenders. They've been on the internet, as you say, Joe. There's tons of information, and they come in very well equipped. They've done some forecasting with their own budget. They know what they can afford, and it's our job then to try to find the automobile that'll fit their price range. But consumers they know what they want, and they can't be influenced, which is good. And so it's our job then to come up with a product that's right for them. And we think we can always do that.
It's not the person, I don't think, coming in anymore, kicking the tires and, you know, getting in behind the wheel and taking it for a quick test drive. I would imagine they go through it almost front to back now and check the whole car over.
For sure. And we try to have our people very well informed of the products, because the product changes so quickly and so much. And you know, a lot of them look the same on the outside, but the substance underneath it varies great from car to car, even within the cars we sell. Between the Pontiac and the Buick and the Cadillac, there's tons of subtle differences.
I bet.
There's still an awful lot of passion involved with buying a vehicle, because even if you have, I would guess, the vehicle that has all the features that you want, you still have to like what it looks like.
Oh, we have a passion for automobiles. That's why we sell as many as we do. You know, one of the first words you ever said was car. We started thinking about them many years ago. If your TV set breaks, you can sort of forgive that. If your car quits, you just hate your car or hate the dealer, or hate somebody. But and that's a good thing. You know, it's because of that passion that North America sells the cars and services the cars we do.
We have somebody on the line here. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hi. I'm wondering if you could give me some information with regards to a Ford Focus. I'm thinking about buying one, and I'd be interested in your comments about the car.
Well, as a matter of fact, that was the very first vehicle that we did take out on a test drive, and I was extremely impressed. And Joe and I were speaking about this earlier on this evening before we came on the air, and I remarked to him that I had had the opportunity to drive an Escort wagon about 2 weeks before I test drove the Ford Focus, and it is a very, very significant increase. It's a nice vehicle and a ton of headroom. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2". There was still about 3.5 inches of headroom for me, lots of shoulder room, and in general, I was quite impressed with the vehicle.
And so, what about the mechanics and the reliability?
Well, particularly, and I'm sure Bruce would back me up on this, on any first model year, you never really know. But at the same time, Bruce, these vehicles, they go through so many different focus groups and so many different checks these days that does the first model year really still come into play where a lot of people are hesitant to buy that?
It certainly wouldn't bother me, be it a Ford, General Motors, or Chrysler. I've heard good things about the Focus. I think they're priced right. I think the fuel economy is good. And of course, if there is difficulty, and hopefully there isn't with a new car purchaser, the car is covered by a warranty. So other than the annoyance of having to give it up for an hour or a day to repair a problem, it certainly is at least cost-free.
I would certainly recommend that you go up to Percival or to Bennett Dunlop Ford and take one out for a test drive and see what you think about it. I was very impressed with the vehicle.
Good. Thanks for your help. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thanks for the call.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for watching In Gear.
Bruce, has it gone a lot to the smaller models? I know we were talking about Cadillac, and we'll talk about Firebird as well, just because I want a Firebird at some point. So, but
good choice.
I know. A lot of Sunbirds. I see a lot of Sunbirds, a lot of Sunfires out there as well. Not exactly compact, but a smaller model, and a friend of mine has one and he swears by it. He thinks it's just a fantastic car.
They are a good car, Joe. They're basically what we call an entry-level car now. So it's priced for the masses, you may say. Out of the new cars we sell, to be quite honest with you, 45% of the new cars we sell are Sunfires. So that's basically half.
Right.
And a part of it is the quality of the car. A big part of it is the price of the automobile. And it's very economical to own after you've either bought it or leased it. So there's two advantages.
Nice little peppy car as well. I haven't driven my friend's, but gone for a ride, and he practices racing every once in a while in his car. And like I say, they have some zip, so some economy, but you still want to be able to get out on the highway and pass people and, you know, get to Saskatoon if you need to as well.
For sure. And they've got all the right safety features in them. They have ABS brakes, they have airbags, lots of economy, great sound systems, you know, good clearance. They're a good car. There's good value for your buck.
So people should come in and take a test drive.
Indeed they should. And if you're thinking about a minivan, well, we've got something you might want to take a test drive in. We did. We were very impressed, and I think you will be as well. We took a drive in a Ford Windstar. That's what we've got for you on Test Drive tonight. The Ford Windstar is our test drive vehicle right here on In Gear.
Here we go again behind the wheel of another minivan, and I don't even have kids. But don't let that stop you from picking one up. Minivans have come a long way in style, comfort, and safety, and it's in the latter category this week's tester really shines. Believe me, it's no slouch in other areas, but as Ford is always so quick to point out, it's the Windstar that keeps leading the way among minivans in crash test ratings. 5 stars, and that's the highest award U.S. government testers give out. And it looks pretty good, too. Our test model was an SEL, which comes equipped with almost all the toys and a trim package that adds to the look nicely. The chrome-framed body side cladding gave our Windstar a very refined and classy look. And in general, our test crew was impressed with the overall curb appeal. Likewise to the ride. It took the edge off the bumpy Regina roads and held on to those roads with no sensation of breaking loose at all. Inside, pretty much what you'd expect from a top-line Ford. Comfortable seats, great ergonomics, and an attractive overall package that is easy for driver and passengers to slide into. Trimmed out with faux wood, the center stack holding stereo, comfort controls, and cup holders was simple to operate with only a minute glance at the control. And the stereo, while not the most powerful we've seen in our tests, proved to be more than adequate. It's not going to blow anyone out the side doors, but let's face it, this is a minivan spelled F-A-M-I-L-Y. It's also on the center stack. One finds the buttons to activate both the optional rear sensing and traction control system. And then back on the dash panel, it's Ford's digital message center, providing info like outside temperature, range to empty, and even an oil monitor. I've called features like this toys before, but as they say, he with the most toys wins. Up top, with the optional overhead console, there's a myriad of different compartments. Let's start with the rear audio controls, allowing the kids to listen to their CDs through headphones while mom and dad enjoy something other than Barney. Next, it's dome and map lights, followed up by the garage door remote control housing. The sunglasses container is big and could double as a small map book holder. And if you need money for parking meters, well, look up here. The coin holder is up and out of the way. But up next is an item I think every larger vehicle should have. School bus drivers love them. A convex mirror placed so the driver can see what everyone's up to. Say hi to Randy. With power sliding doors comes this control. It allows the driver to activate the rear doors without even having to get out of the seat. Yes, we are getting lazy, but I love it. Finally, up top on the driver's side sun visor, a trainable transmitter. Use this for the garage door at work if you have one, or to turn on lights at home as you drive up. Most of us aren't that wired up yet, but the day is not too far away. As you can see, our test model this week came with very supple leather, and the rear seats have side-mounted cup holders, but also a new feature that, from what I'm hearing, may become an industry standard soon. It's the ISOFIX child safety seat anchors. These small hooks in the seat help make it easier for moms and dads to ensure they have that child seat set up right, providing peace of mind for everyone. And Windstar is the first minivan to make use of them. Lighting and comfort controls are accessible for those in the rear and even further back after lifting the gate, another convenience feature. Like our Dodge test unit of a few weeks ago, the Ford Windstar has bag holders to keep the grocery bags upright and the groceries in the bags. If more space is needed, maybe this will help. The Windstar's rear seats flip down with ease, and the rear bench can be slid forward to create a larger cargo area. I must say, though, if you need to remove the rear seats, consider getting some help. Getting them to the tailgate, no problem at all, but if you have to carry them far, you'll appreciate a hand. Juice box holders out back are something the kids will appreciate, and for mom and dad, how about this, the PowerPoint to run that air compressor. And if you have the cargo net in use, you want to make sure it stays in place. The way these connectors are designed will certainly ensure that. Once you open up the back area, it's a mighty cavernous opening. It's great for helping your sister-in-law move that grandfather clock she bought at the flea market. As mentioned earlier, this is one of the better riding vehicles in this class, much of that I'm sure due to the Windstar's relatively long wheelbase. At just over 120 inches, it is in fact one of the longest wheelbases among minivans on the market today. That provides an above-average ride in a good-looking vehicle. One other note about the rear. On the rear bumper with the optional backup alert system, there are 4 sensors designed to let you know when you're getting close to an object behind you. The closer you are, the faster it beeps. It's a clever system, but should only be used as an aid. Finally, a quick look under the hood where we'll find the standard issue Ford 3.8-liter V6 pumping out 200 horse. That's more than enough for a vehicle in this class and also helps the Windstar claim, when properly equipped, a 3,400-pound or almost 1,600-kilo towing capacity. All in all, the Windstar is an exceptional vehicle, providing almost everything minivan owners are looking for these days, and you might want to consider putting one in your garage. This week, let me say thanks to Trevor Boquist and all our friends on Broad at Bennett Dunlop Ford.
Did you know a fully loaded Hybrid 3 test dummy may cost up to $100,000 for one test dummy? $100,000. Believe me, it's worth it. They have sensors all over their bodies. And as we know, test dummies provide us with valuable information. By the way, I want to take an opportunity to acknowledge a television show called Crash Test, which I was watching on TLC last night. You may have sort of recognized a bit of a theme, talking about crashes tonight on the Did You Know segment. I was watching this show called Crash Test on TLC last night. Just absolutely invaluable information. 3 Gs on liftoff for a shuttle, and you and I hitting 100 Gs for about 1/10 of a second in an accident. It really goes to show. And that was not that wasn't a 100-mile-an-hour accident. They were talking 45, 50, 60 miles an hour. Once again, 565-5376 if you want to give us a shout. And don't forget as well, Boston Pizza tonight. Make that 545 Albert Street North. We'll be at the north location of Boston Pizza. And we've actually got a couple of people on the line here. Let's pop over and see who is with us. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Just a question for your guest. Can you tell me if it's true that the factory in Quebec that makes the Camaros and Firebirds is closed?
We were talking about this before the show.
We were, yes. Thanks for your question. As I understand it, it's not closed yet, but I think they're planning to close that down after this model year, if I'm not mistaken. You're sure welcome to call me tomorrow. I could get a hold of General Motors and confirm that one way or the other. I believe that's the announcement they've made.
I'd actually read something on the Newswire system last week, I guess it was, that they were talking 8 different GM plants were going to at least curtail production on a temporary basis because of excess inventory at the moment.
Okay, I don't know about that for sure.
Maybe that might be the case. If you do want to give Bruce a shout tomorrow, your number at the dealership?
525-5211.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your call. Bye-bye. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hello, how are you tonight?
I'm great, how are you?
Not too bad. I'd like some information on 4 cylinders, Beretta, Corsica, 4-cylinder head gaskets. How long are they covered for over warranty?
Generally a 3-year warranty?
Yeah, I think so. Buying the part or when it was on the car. If you buy it from a parts department, I think it's 12 months. If you bought the part and tried to put it on the engine or replace the engine.
Right.
Coming from the manufacturer, it's normally 60,000 kilometers.
60,000 kilometers covered up to 60 clicks.
Yeah.
For warranty.
But it would be worth it to contact where you purchased it and ask them. Because you don't want to have any surprises.
No, if you can provide a serial number to your nearest General Motors dealer, they could probably tell you when the warranty expires on that automobile.
That's for the head gasket itself, eh?
Well, as the drivetrain, which I assume the head gasket would be a part of that, I would guess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yep. Thank you very much for your call.
So we talked about some of the mid-sized cars. Let's talk the Camaros and the Firebirds a little bit. But we'll talk about the Pontiac Firebird. Is it a bit of a decline for the muscle cars as of late?
I think yes, it is for sure. I think there's a few reasons, Joe. The first one is they're very, very expensive cars nowadays. It used to be a bit more of an entry-level car. You used to be able to buy a 6-cylinder standard Camaro, for example, and it used to be priced right. I don't think you can get those base models anymore. Another issue, I think that's a big issue in provinces other than ours, and I shouldn't say ours is excluded in the concern, but I think insurance muscle cars or sports cars in some provinces is just formidable, especially if you're a younger driver.
It's a bit of a shame, though, you know, that Firebird logo. It's one of the most recognized ones out there. It's like the you know, it's like the Cadillac symbol in that. So hopefully they don't go away altogether. I hope that's not the case.
I hope you're right. They're a fun car. They're fun to drive.
Well, we're talking about muscle cars. Of course, our good friend Paul Eitnier has been building that CASCAR Sportsman race car. We have a segment called The Racer's Edge, and I know we do have a few callers that are sort of holding on the line, waiting for us right now. If you wouldn't mind just bearing with us, be patient for us, because we want to make sure that we keep you up to date with what is going on with Paul Eitnier and that CASCAR Sportsman race car. So check it out. Here's our buddy Paul right now. It's The Racer's Edge on In Gear.
Hi, I'm Paul Eitnier and welcome to Racer's Edge. It's been several weeks since you've seen the construction of our CASCAR. Since then, we've moved from one shop into another, and having to do that, we had to disassemble the chassis off of the jig and bring the jig and everything back into our new shop. And this is going to give you a unique opportunity to see what we actually do to build this car from the ground up. First, we have to reassemble the jig. 6 legs are installed to create a strong leveling surface. Once the legs are installed, a 4-foot level is used to level off all 4 sides of our jig. A building level or transit is used to plumb the corners. Now it's time to mount our front clip onto the jig and bolt it into position. Pre-measured and cut 2x3-inch box steel is laid out on the jig and positioned for welding. This makes up the basic framework for our CASCAR. The rear frame structure is raised to make room for the fuel tank and rear axle. We finish up the frame layout at the back end by clamping it together for welding. Sections of the frame are pre-squared, then ground to make tight and accurate 45-degree angles for welding. After re-squaring, the corners are clamped down and ready to weld. A bevel is ground into the top joint to create a cavity to lay the bead in. For the purpose of our demonstration, we'll only spot weld for now. Next time, we'll be starting construction of the roll cage itself. I'm Paul Eitnier for Racer's Edge.
There we go. What a great segment. And, well, of course, you've seen a CASCAR being built from scratch before, but for so many of us, this is the very, very first time that we have ever seen it. And, of course, we want to see that one being raced out at Kings Park Speedway this year. I know Paul doesn't want to see you putting any of the donuts on the side of that.
No, I would never do that. You know, I don't think Paul and I have actually run into each other before. I've run into and been run into a few times, but I don't think it's ever been with Paul, so yeah, we'll see.
You know what? We had Barry's Automotive Adventures before. Barry has been a pretty busy guy. We're gonna get him back on here in just a quick second. You're a bit of a racing guy yourself. We've seen you out at Kings Park the odd time, and of course the Capital Pontiac Buick, Cadillac GMC, formerly Pace Truck, now our track truck. It looks wonderful out there, and we want to say thank you for having it out there.
Good. Well, we appreciate you know, the opportunity to get out in front of everyone.
Let's see who is with us on line number 1. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question about the horsepower in that Dodge engine made by Mercedes. Do you have any horsepower numbers as compared to the Cummins that's in there now for 2001?
In what I was able to pull off of the internet last night, so far, no, I don't have any of the horsepower comparison information. I can try and dig that up for you and maybe have the answer for you next week.
Okay, how about V8 or 6-cylinder?
You know what? There wasn't much in the way of engine specs. It more dealt with the fact that they were going to drop the Cummins engine for the 2003 model, and just because, of course, Mercedes and Chrysler, part of the same parent corporation now being Daimler Chrysler, that's why they're making the switch over to the Mercedes engine. So I'll try and dig up some more information on that and have that for you next week.
Okay then.
Thanks for your patience.
Was that on the Daimler Chrysler site? Maybe something that they can go and take a look at as well?
Potentially, www.daimlerchrysler.ca. I believe I found that one on, what is it, automotivenewsdigest.com. So you might want to check that out as well.
Take a look for that as well.
Something else we want to take a look at right now, maybe if we can have the camera sort of focus in for us right up here. A couple of wonderful race cars. These are 1/24th scale race cars, and Joe, if you wouldn't mind giving us a description as we go.
Well, I brought all the Pontiacs that I had.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome. Not that they're mine. Let's not forget they're Joanne's. So, and I brought them in the box, and I took very good care of them again. But these are the Pontiacs. It's the Grand Prix that they use in NASCAR and Busch Series. We just went by Buckshot Jones from last year. I believe that was his paint scheme. Michael Waltrip from a few years ago, the number 30 Pennzoil. And there's a little bit of a difference, but not that much. They've kind of kept the body style fairly basic and fairly standard. Another Buckshot Jones, again from a couple of years ago, I think, actually. And then we're going to get to one of the ones that's doing very well these days. Tony Stewart, not a rookie anymore, just about won Vegas on the weekend. If the rain wouldn't have came down, we might have seen that Pontiac in victory circle. And Bruce, it's a Pontiac in first place in NASCAR right now, so you got to be happy. First and another top 10, and I think there's a few of them in the top 10. They've been doing well this year.
I think so. As much as I know about it, I believe Stewart and Labonte are both doing really well.
They are.
And Tony Stewart has been just sort of the rave. Everybody used to talk about Jeff Gordon. Now everybody's talking about Tony Stewart. We've got another call here. Hi, welcome to In Gear.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi.
Bruce.
How are you?
Okay. I just wanted to tell you guys, I'm a Cadillac kind of guy.
We were talking about Sharky before.
Okay.
That voice sounds familiar.
I hope someday to get something that you got in the showroom now.
Okay, well, we'll certainly try to accommodate you.
And I can give them a good test.
Okay.
In fact, maybe you want to give me one now.
Well, Joe's already first in line.
Oh, darn. Well, I'll take care of him later tonight.
Well, okay. I tell you what, Jim, I'll take a Firebird for a spin, and you can come and take the Cadillac. Does that sound fair?
I can hardly. I love them Cadillacs, Bruce.
Good. Thanks, Jim.
And I did get my Meatloaf tape. Thank you.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. We appreciate people looking after you. You may recall last week we were talking about Jim Sharky Braden out there in his Enduro car. He has Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell. That's the 8-track that he always likes to play, and his caddy says he's on track, and his died last year. So I don't know how many he got, but Sharky, thanks for the call.
Thank you.
All right, and you know, something else I wanted to talk to you about was the internet. Of course, that has changed the industry. Every industry in the world has been changed by the internet and e-commerce. How has that affected the new car industry for someone like yourself?
Well, it's going to be a new way that we do business. General Motors tell us that it won't be that long, and you'll be booking service appointments with us. You'll be ordering parts. Right now, General Motors of Canada have 6,000 pages of their own on the internet, not counting dealer pages.
Wow.
You know, we have our own. We're hooked up with AutoBytel. We're hooked up with Autotrader.com. So it plays a big part of our life. And I think that they're saying that people that have bought cars, I believe it's about 30% now, have got some information from the internet. Not that they bought cars via the internet, but they've informed themselves over the internet. It's going to be a bigger part of everything we do. It really helps the buyer become informed.
Wow. That's 30%, and that number is just going to continue to grow fast.
Oh, it really is.
Do you see it as a threat at all, though? I mean, I think people would still want to come in, and they're still going to want to take the test drive. They're going to want to sit in the car, get the new car smell, and do all of that, where if they go to the Auto Vitals of the world, are they using it more as a reference, do you think, and then coming in and taking an actual model out for a drive?
Yeah, we don't feel threatened by it, Joe. I think it just helps the consumer become very well informed, and it lets you do lots of comparisons. You can do that at home at 11:30 at night sitting in your underwear. You know, you don't have to be harassed by anybody. You're in charge of the whole process, and I think that's what people like. But it doesn't change their interaction with us eventually. And you're right, people have the passion for the cars. They want to come down and touch them and smell them and drive them and do all of those things. And they just come with the information to us, and then we help fill in the blanks for them.
You have X amount of cars on the lot. It's got to be tough to keep a certain brand, number of models, and
all the different colors and options
exactly.
and everything else on the lot.
It is, yeah. It's a big job. You know, we sell so many models to start with, and then there's so many option configurations, and then there's the colors. We carry probably about 250 new cars in Regina. And we have good relationships with other dealers. So in other words, if you'd like a brown pickup truck and we don't have one, we can maybe trade some other dealer that we have a good relationship with, one of our red ones, and get you the brown one in pretty quick order.
Which is nice, so I can come in and I can say, yeah, I want this color, I want these options. If it's going to come from the factory, is it a long waiting period? Unfortunately, I've never had a chance to have a new car, so I've never gone through that process.
Well, we'll help you with that problem.
I know.
First of all. But,
I know.
Put your butt in that caddy.
That's right.
At certain times of the year, if there's a new model introduction, Joe, it takes a little longer. As the model year progresses, probably 6 to 10 weeks, somewhere's in there, depending on the model.
So that's not too bad.
No, it's really not.
That's
and then you can get it exactly. You can tailor make it the way you want it.
No, exactly. That's nice. Pick your color, pick everything that you want.
For sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
And all the options that everybody's looking for. I don't know if we still have enough time. Barry's Automotive Adventures took a little bit of a twist a couple of nights ago. From what I'm just been informed that we're going to get to that next week. Barry Davies did something a little bit unusual. He was a guest referee at Stampede Wrestling next Tuesday. We're going to get that on for you next week. But we do want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for joining us. And a little plug for Capital Pontiac Buick Cadillac GMC. Where are you? How can people get a hold of you? And you said you've got an internet address.
We do. We're on the internet at gmcanadacapitalpontiac.com. And our physical location in Regina is 1350 Albert Street. It's just a little north of Albert and Dewdney. We've been there for a real long time. We're the only Pontiac Buick Cadillac GMC truck dealer in the area. And we're a very large used car operation as well.
And I hope people will stop by and say they saw you in gear.
Well, thank you very kindly. It's been fun seeing you, Garth, and fun meeting you, Joe.
Thank you very much. It was great to have you here.
And Joe, next week we've got a very special show indeed, because a lot of people, you want to keep the exterior of your car maintained very well. And we've got special guests joining us from Z-Bart Trimline next week, and we'll talk to you more next week about looking after the exterior of your car. But don't forget, Boston Pizza is where we're on our way to, 545 Albert Street North. Thanks to Joe, thanks to Bruce. I'm Garth Stone. Thanks for keeping it right here on In Gear.
In Gear is brought to you in part by Boston Pizza. Come and get it all. The Regina Automobile Dealers Association. And Kings Park Speedway. We're kicking asphalt.
For some, this is one of the most mysterious places on Earth. For others, it's a tool, a means of protecting one of the biggest investments in our lives, the Automotive Service Garage. Hi, I'm Garth Stone from Country 92, and down here, Barry Davies from 62 Cool.
And pretty soon on Channel 7, Garth and I are going to show you that we don't know a damn thing.
We only get one chance.